Hey there and welcome back to Sims Sunday. My name is Pete and in this series, as usual, we try to complete The Sims 3. And we have a slightly shorter episode on our hands today, still it is a rather significant one. I will explain the reasons for that as we go along. For now we can continue right where we left off last time. Pauline has returned from a night of work and stealing, so she can now grab breakfast, while Ayesha can send away a few gems that I apparently forgot last time, and Patrick is also awake and ready to eat something. After a quick shower for Ayesha, we can have Pauline and Ayesha chat for a bit. Ayesha's social bar is somewhat lacking and she also has the wish to become best friends with Pauline, so we can now take care of both. Outside, Patrick meanwhile has started work in the garden. And here we are, Pauline and Ayesha are now best friends. And that means they can now both leave. Ayesha for some more collecting, remember we still need a rainbow gem, and Pauline for some much needed coworker interaction. While both of them are on their ways, we can also see that Patrick has begun harvesting his garlic, so that should turn into a nice source of income soon. Pauline meanwhile has made it over to Carrie's house, another coworker that she hasn't met yet, but they will get to know each other soon. Just a few moments later, the relationship has already reached a point where at least the work requirement is bright green, but let's have them chat a bit more and see if we can't get them up to friendship status. Alright, Carrie had to leave for work, but we are where we need to be for our next shift, so Pauline can now head back home for some rest. Patrick meanwhile has finished his tour through the garden and can now grab the mail, and that means it's money time, because apart from the money tree harvest, there are quite a few valuable things in there. While Patrick is taking a shower, we can also quickly clean out the family inventory, as there are a few more things in here that can make us a lot of money. And that is partly also thanks to Pauline's criminal activities last episode. Speaking of Pauline, here she is, returning home for some sleep before her next shift. Since she has to work until the early morning hours, I think that makes a lot of sense. Her father Paul meanwhile has gotten stressed from writing, but there is an easy way to cure that, he just needs to quickly go over to the other desk. With Ayesha meanwhile, it is finally time to rejoice, and also to worry about the consequences of that. After just a few hours of collecting, Ayesha has finally found a rainbow gem. And that was the absolute last thing I wanted her to do in this playthrough. So she can now send that rainbow gem away to be cut, and we will get back to her in a second. For now, we can quickly also check in with Patrick, who has started fishing again, still working towards the commercial fisherman skill challenge. In anticipation of a complete gem collection, we can now sell all the gems that are not heart-shaped cuts, simply because I think that having one heart-shaped cut of each gem is more than enough. The heart-shaped cuts can then go into the family inventory, where they will stay for a while. Into the family inventory, we can also put these two certificates in the dining room area, as they need to make room for a door. We are going to build ourselves a nice outside area today, although one that also has a rather grim purpose. Once the door is in place, we can excavate a 5x5 pool outside, and we can surround that with light grey tiles. Since this is going to be a rather private area, we need some fencing, and this rather high stone wall serves this purpose nicely. The pool itself can then get the usual black and white color scheme, which I think looks a lot better than the bright blue. We can add a few lights, one on each side of the pool, and then it's time for decoration. First of all, let's put an umbrella down, since our Sims don't want to get sunburned, and below the umbrella we can give them two nice sun chairs. Then a small end table to put a few things on, things like magazines for example. Another pair of sun chairs will go over in the corner here, and we can fill the empty space behind them with a few flowers. For Patrick, we will put down a grill that we may or may not use, and that pretty much completes this area. However, we also want to use this as sort of a display area. And since it's outside, I think it's best suited for the beetles and butterflies. So we can drag one of each from Ayesha's inventory out here. That will put them in a nice small terrarium, and those can then be used to put the insects on display. Alright, I have created 5 stacks of 2 butterflies each, and we will now do the same for the beetles. We can drag them all out and then create 5 more stacks. And for those of you who stuck with me through the collecting process, collecting all of those, yeah, that took a while. For some more lighting, let's put some candles down here, and then I think, yep, we're done. And since we now have one of each beetle and butterfly on display, we can sell all of the rest from Ayesha's inventory. And if I'm not mistaken, that should amount to roughly 400 to 500 beetles and butterflies. Yes, Ayesha was quite busy. We can also transfer Ayesha's collection helper and the death flower over to Paul, since today is going to be Ayesha's last episode. You guys have voted for the type of ghost that you want Ayesha to become, and in the end there was a tie between the red and the blue one. Since I wanted to create a pool area for a while now, I decided for the blue one, and that means Ayesha can now already test out the waters. Paul meanwhile has maxed out his fun bar again, and that means he can now continue to write. His wife Chastity has been reading the logic skill book for the entirety of this episode so far, but she now has to leave for work. I decided not to have her quit her job just yet. She can make us a decent amount of money at level 10 in the symphonic career, and apart from reading that logic skill book and maybe playing for tips, she really doesn't have anything else to do. At work, however, we can have her take it easy. We can't get her promoted any higher, so no need to stress her out. Back at home, Pauline gets up well rested, so to prepare for a long night shift, she can now have something to eat. Ayesha meanwhile is getting exhausted from swimming and has climbed out of the pool again, which only goes to show you that she does not need a ladder to exit. Now after all the selling we did so far, we have amassed quite a amount of money, and I think let's give Ayesha one last spending spree. For 130,000 simoleons she can now buy the library. Pauline meanwhile can take a shower and then spend the time until she needs to leave for work with painting. Ayesha leaves City Hall, we lose almost 130,000 simoleons, but the complete household now owns the Sunset Valley Library. And that property is already at its highest level, so we don't need to upgrade it further. Not much else going on, so we can skip right ahead to the end of the workday for Chastity. Of course, no promotions or raises in sight. She simply earns 1,700 simoleons and can now return back home. Before it's getting too late, however, let's have Paul stop writing for the moment, as I want him to hold another meeting today. On his way over to the office building, he meets Chastity, who after her shift can now continue to read the logic skill book. Very exciting, yeah, I know. Pauline then finishes her painting exactly 2 hours before her shift starts, but she could use a bit more fun before she leaves, so the SimLife goggles are the logical next choice. Over at the office building, Paul finishes his meeting, and the number of meetings held is still not perfect, but for today it's getting too late, so we can't hold any more, and therefore he can now return back home. Pauline meanwhile has maxed out her fun bar and will now begin her shift. A few moments later, Paul arrives back home, and as a true author, he will immediately continue to write. And now it's time to slowly say goodbye, and I admit this was hard for me. Purposely killing off Ayesha after about 66 episodes, that was not really an easy task. Still, the completionist aspect of this playthrough demands that we get another ghost, so let's send Ayesha swimming and then fence her in. And from here out, things go just about as you would expect. So Ayesha, who has been part of the household since the very first episode, now leaves us. She leaves us as a chess legend, an international super spy, and a world-renowned surgeon. She also leaves us having mastered both the logic and the athletic skill. And last but not least, and this took most of her time, she leaves us with 5 perfect collections. Ayesha Complete, you stuck around for long, and now you can finally get some rest. Now I suppose with Ayesha gone we no longer need the walls here, so we can break them back down, and then I think it's time to create her final resting place. Her portrait has been hanging here for quite a while now, and it can now finally join Pete. We can then make a bit of room on the table, put Pete's urn on the left side, and add Ayesha's next to his. Reunited in death, Pete and Ayesha can now once again sit side by side. And a very sad Paul can now go to bed, visibly hurt by the loss of his mother. Chastity can then join him soon after. I think he can use the comfort. Even though Patrick has spent the evening on another lot, he has also learned of his mother's death, and so with only 43 fish left until he becomes a commercial fisherman, we can also send him home and off to bed. And as if things weren't bad enough already, here we can see Pauline getting arrested. Yes, that is always a risk in the criminal career, and so Pauline not only loses her grandmother, but she will also spend the night in jail. And so we will wrap this episode up on a rather low note and with a small tribute to Ayesha. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.